And as I was preparing for today, I was thinking back to the campaign and trying to find one story I wanted to share with you guys. The one story rings louder than any other story that I could tell. And as it's been touched on already by some, probably mostly by my brother, I'm from Racine. I was born and raised there. I moved to the central Wisconsin area just almost 10 years ago for my job with the Public Defender's Office in Stevens Point, courtesy of what I thought was a hiring reach by Ms. Bias, who was in the room, and many others at the Public Defender's Office, and Mr. Dickman as well, who over the course of time became a lot more than just a boss to me. And I don't have, other than, and I don't want to, I say this with some level of caution, I don't have family here. I don't have historical family here. You know, my wife is here, my current family is here, but I don't have generations of Nielsens in this community. Then one night toward the end of the election, I was knocking on doors in the town of St. Lawrence. It was toward the end of the election. I was worn out. I was tired. It was difficult. And it was the last house of the night. And I knocked on the door, and an older gentleman answers the door and says, "Hi, can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, my name is Troy Nielsen. I'm running for judge." And who I now know is his wife yells out from the back room, "Come on in. I've been waiting for you." And I thought, well, a little bit past my preferred age, but hey, I'm in a campaign. Let's see what this is all about. So I walk in, and the woman says to me, "You're Phyllis's grandson, aren't you?" And I said, "Huh?" My grandma Phyllis, somebody through the campaign I thought about a lot in the beginning, but through the course of the campaign I hadn't really thought of her much because I was so enmeshed in the campaign. And I was just bewildered by the fact that this woman, who was a stranger to me, knew me as Phyllis's grandson. And the story is, in November, just before the election really started to take off, one of our local writers wrote a story about myself and the other candidate, and in that story I had identified my grandmother as somebody who was a role model to me, as somebody who should give back to his or her community. She is a saint. She did a lot for her community, and she did a lot for her family. And I mentioned my grandmother by name Phyllis Nielsen, in this article. This woman had read that article, and she knew my grandmother because my grandmother was a paralegal in Racine prior to becoming the clerk of courts in Racine. And as a paralegal, she was head of the Paralegal State Association, or whatever the state group was called. She was the president, and of course, why wouldn't she have been? She was this, I can't put words to my grandmother. She was this great, great woman. And this woman I was speaking to used to be a paralegal in Appleton, so she knew my grandmother through this paralegal association. And as I was driving home that night, it was literally, I could have sat at that woman's house for hours picking her brain about my grandmother. And when I was driving home, it really started to click that, what I was trying to do as a candidate was let everybody know who I was. I was trying to make it as personal as possible. Everything we did was geared toward that, because I felt if people knew who I was, they would like me, respect me, or trust me, and thus vote for me. And it was as I was driving home that night, it really dawned on me that I was less Troy Nielsen the candidate and more Phyllis's grandson, more Jack's grandson, more Tom and Deb's son, more TJ's little brother. And the reason, that people were going to vote for me wasn't because of anything I have done as myself. It's because of all of these people in my life that have helped mold and create this candidate. Like I said, I grew up really as Jack's grandson, which in a city of 90,000, it's odd that one man could go by Jack and everybody know who he was, but they did. I was known as one of Chopper's boys. For those that don't know, Chopper was my dad's nickname. And for a lot of years, I was known as TJ's little brother. But, it was that night, and I came home and I was just amazed with the story, and I talked to Ange about it, and it really just dawned on me that, it was, if people were going to vote and support and like sort of what they were hearing and seeing, it wasn't anything that I was doing. It was the byproduct of all of these people. My grandparents, my aunts and uncles who are here, who I love dearly, my brother, my wife, my sleeping children, who I love more when they're asleep, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, of course, my sister-in-law, and my brother-in-law. Today seems to be a celebration of me, but it's really not. It's a celebration for all of my family and for all of my friends, who I include Dave and include Kyle and many others who couldn't be here today. I just want to thank you guys. This is really a day for you guys, far more than it is for me. I love you guys. I'm honored and privileged to say that I'm colleagues with these fine folks. I'm proud to say that I'm taking over for a legend, which he's given me a lot of presents here the first couple weeks on the job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We still got to talk. So I could go on and on and on. The last thing I want to say is this is something I said on the night of April 4th, kind of off the cuff, but I guess those are sometimes the best things you can say. If somebody would have told my dad 20 years ago that I'd be sitting here, quite frankly, his answer would have been, yeah, no shit. I want to end it with this. One of the greatest quotes I've ever heard in my life is that the best predictor of future success is a careful selection of one's parents. And when you think about it, we don't get to select our parents. I just happen to be one of the luckiest people in the world to have the parents I had. And I thank them. I wish I could hug them. They're looking down, and I appreciate that. Thank you, guys.